それでは本日のプログラムを開始いたします。シビジョージ駐日インド大使閣下、日本の仏教界のリーダーの皆様、仏教信者の皆様、本日のご登壇者様、ご来場の仏教研究者の皆様、こんにちは。本日はご来場の皆様と、ブッダが書店法輪を行った日、ダンマチャクラプラワルタディワスを祝ってまいります。在日インド大使館を代表し、本日ご来場の皆様を歓迎いたします。それでは、プログラムを開始するにあたり、国歌斉唱を行います。皆様、ご起立ください。Before we start the program, we would like to request that everybody kindly rise for the national anthems.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
皆様、ご着席ください。Please have a seat. Now I'd like to invite on the stage His Excellency Ambassador Shri Sibi George, Shri Mayank George, our Deputy Chief of Mission, Professor Kenryo Minowa, and Professor Pema Gyalpo for lighting the lamp. それでは、ジョージ大使、女子主席講師、箕輪健良教授、ペマ・ギャルポ教授、ご登壇いただき、ランプの点灯式を行っていただきますようお願い申し上げます。 Thank you, sirs. 皆様ありがとうございます。Now I request His Ambassador Sri Shibi George to kindly address the gathering. 続きまして、ジョージ駐日インド大使より皆様にご挨拶申し上げます。大使挨拶の日本語訳はステージ上のスクリーンに投影いたします。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Embassy of India. Greetings to all on the occasion of Dhamma Chakra Pravartana Day, when we celebrate the day of the first sermon of Lord Buddha. I congratulate the Team India in Japan for organizing this event today here in Indian Embassy. Okay. In Japan, every corner of this beautiful country that we visit, we could see the presence of Lord Buddha. It is one of the strong civilizational connect that makes our two countries spiritual neighbors. One of the first places that I visited in Japan was Nara, where Bodhisena came in 752 AD and participated in the eye-opening ceremony of Lord Buddha. Dear friends, in the 5th century BC, Lord Buddha, who is the light of Asia, emerged from India to shed his radiance over millions of people around our world. The story of his life and his teachings created lofty ethical and humanitarian ideals and a vibrant spiritual tradition that suffused our own great civilization and radically transformed other civilizations in India, in Asia, and beyond. His teachings were not only lucid and deep, but also simple and direct, and dealt with the most universal of all human problems, the problem of suffering. His greatness lay not in his ability to discern the causes of such suffering, but in teaching a universal message addressed to all human beings on how to live a life that is morally correct and practically useful to our fellow beings. We celebrate Lord Buddha for this today. Every Indian can rightfully be proud that India is the karma bhumi of this great sun. It is also a matter of pride for all Indians that it is we who nurtured and developed Buddha's teachings and spiritual traditions at Nalanda, Vikramshila, and other Buddhist centers after his parinirvana, and that his message of peace and tolerance was carried abroad by Indians as well, by Mahinda, the son of Emperor Ashoka, to Sri Lanka, by Padma Sambhava to Tibet, by Kashyapa, Matanga, and Bodhidharma to China, and other countless others to vast swath of our world from Central Asia to Japan. Let me quote Prime Minister Modi, who said, and I quote, "Thousands of years ago when Lord Buddha lived, there were no such arrangements as they are today, but still Buddha reached crores of people of the world and got connected with their inner soul. I have experienced this in temples and Buddhist monasteries in different countries, from Kandy to Kyoto, from Hanoi to Hambantota. Lord Buddha is omnipresent through his thoughts, monasteries, relics, and culture." Unquote. Dear friends, what is remarkable is that throughout this great journey, the message of peace and compassion was never spread by the force of arms. The tradition of persuasion by truth and non-violence, for which India is famous, found fruition 2 millennia later in our freedom struggle led by Mahatma Gandhi, who always acknowledged a debt of gratitude to Lord Buddha. I recall the words of Prime Minister Modi, who referred to Lord Buddha and his teachings of non-violence during the unveiling of the statue of Mahatma Gandhi in May this year, during his visit to Hiroshima for the G7 summit. I invite you all to visit the Gandhi statue during your next visit to Hiroshima. Dear friends, I should also mention the Indian Buddhist Confederation, IBC, as a global umbrella Buddhist organization which strives to bring together all Buddhist organizations, institutions, and lay entities across the world. It makes efforts to highlight the essence of Dhamma in dealing with contemporary challenges such as conflicts, climate change, health issues, sustainability, among others. More than 200 Buddhist organizations and institutions from across the world are part of the IBC. In April this year, IBC organized the Global Buddhist Summit, which witnessed participation of more than 700 followers of the Dhamma, including 170 foreign delegates from 32 nations. Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi inaugurated the event, which was also attended by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Dear friends, as a young diplomat, I had a great opportunity to visit most of the pilgrimage places attached to the life of Lord Buddha. I accompanied the then Prime Minister of Mongolia, who was on an official visit to India, to visit some of the pilgrim centers such as Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, and Kushinagar. I also recall my visit to Takshashila. It is at Sarnath that Lord Buddha gave his first teaching after attaining enlightenment. I invite our Japanese friends who are present here to visit these places, which has a special connect with Japan. Dear friends, I would like to conclude by quoting Honorable Prime Minister Modi, who said about Lord Buddha, I quote, "The Buddha is an incarnation of the collective sense of humanity. There are Buddha perceptions and so are Buddha researches. There are Buddha thoughts and so are Buddha samskaras. The Buddha is special because he did not only preach, but he made humanity feel knowledge. He dared to abandon the great glorious kingdom and comforts. Certainly, he was not born as an ordinary child, but he made us realize that sacrifice is more important than attainment. Realization is complete only by renunciation. That's why he wandered in the forest. He did penance. He did research. After that introspection, when he reached the pinnacle of knowledge, he never claimed to do any miracle for the welfare of the people. Rather, Lord Buddha showed us the path which he himself had lived. He had given us the mantra, be your own lamp. Don't take my words out of respect for me either. Rather, test them and assimilate them." Unquote. Dear friends, Lord Buddha's message of peace, tolerance, and harmony must continue to guide us in this century as it has in the past 24 centuries. We have today present with us scholars who can speak about Lord Buddha and his teachings. I thank them for joining us. Once again, greetings to all on this auspicious occasion. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. 開始ありがとうございました。From now on, the program will be proceeded in Japanese language only. Thank you very much for your understanding. 以降の進行は日本語で行います。ご了承くださいませ。それではここでアシャダプールニマと仏教のダルマについてご説明いたします。アーシャダプールニマ、ダンマチャクラプラバルタナディワスとは、ルンビニで悟りを開いたブッダがその2ヶ月後に初めて説法を行ったことを祝う日です。この日はシッタルーダガウタマの生誕を祝うバイシャカ・ブッダプルニマやブッダガヤで悟りに到達した日、そしてクシナガラで迎えた大涅槃の日に続く啓示とされています。ブッダはサルナートの六夜音で5人の弟子に書店法輪を行い、死体や八道または中道といった概念、そして両極端な考え方を控えることの重要性を説き、ダルマ、すなわち仏教における倫理的規範の基礎を築きました。悟りを開いてから2ヶ月目にあたるアーシャダーの月の満月の夜に、ブッダは人生の苦しみから逃れる普遍的な方法としてダルマを示しました。このことから、この日は仏教にとって非常に重要な日となったのです。そして目覚めたものであるブッダが悟りから得た知識や知見を人類に与えたという意味でも重要な日となりました。ブッダは特に死体や人生における苦しみを終わらせるための指針、すなわち八正道を熱心に説いていました。苦しみからの解放につながる八正道はシーラ、サマディ、そしてプラーギャの3つに分類されます。八正道をこの3つに分類することで、その教え一つ一つをよりよく理解することができるようになります。八正道は個人が人生を生きる上で従い、実践し、精進すべき教義です。八正道は 体と言葉、精神の自己鍛錬であり、自己開発であり、自己浄化でもあります。心を完全に浄化し、道徳的、精神的、知的に完成させることによって、究極的な現実を悟り、完全な自由、幸福、そして平和へと導く道なのです。本日は、アーシュダ・プールニマ・ダンマ・チャクラ・プラバルタン・ディワスを祝い、普遍的な価値にも続いた教義であるダルマを祝い、他者とも共有し、平和で喜びに満ちた、調和の取れた世界を実現しましょう。さて、2013年に創設された国際仏教連盟または IBC は、仏教遺産の保存や知識の共有、仏教的価値観の促進のほか、仏教が国際議場に有意義な形で参画し、世界的な課題で役割を果たすための統一機関として構築されました。豊かで多様な仏教宗派の間には教義上の相違点がありますが、相違点より異なる宗派を結びつける要素の方がはるかに多く、IBC はこの共通基盤に基づき、仏教の成長と発展を可能にする環境整備に取り組んでいます。聖なるサンガ、世界中の仏教宗派、組織、機関、総員の代表者が IBC 創設者、また IBC 憲章の署名者として名を連ねています。それではここで IBC の10年の足跡をめぐる動画をご覧ください。2本続けで上映いたします。
The Global Buddhist Congregation 2011 proved to be a turning point in the contemporary history of Buddhism. Convened by Lama Lobsang, a renowned Indian Buddhist monk. The historic congregation comprising 900 delegates from all over the world, including the supreme Buddhist hierarchy representing the entire Buddhist world, unanimously resolved to form the International Buddhist Confederation, or the IBC, a global umbrella Buddhist body to be based in India.
भारत बुद्ध भूमि है जहाँ पर भगवान बुद्ध ने ज्ञान प्राप्त किया, जहाँ भगवान बुद्ध ने प्रथम धम्म चक्र परिवर्तन किया है, जहाँ पर भगवान बुद्ध ने महापरिनिर्वाण किया, हमारे यहाँ लोग श्रद्धा से आता है।
Buddhism originated here at Bodh Gaya. This great awakening temple stands here in all its majesty to remind us of the timeless story of the enlightenment of Bodhisattva Siddhartha, who attained the Sambodhi, or the perfect enlightenment here, and became the Buddha 26 centuries ago on Vaishakh Purnima, which is a full moon day in the month of May. This mesmerizing sculpture of Buddha facing east marks the exact seat of the Buddha during his enlightenment in the 6th century BCE. The Buddha travelled 180 miles from Bodh Gaya on the ancient Uttar Path to reach present Sarnath. As per tradition, it was here in the deer park of Sarnath on Ashar Purnima, a full moon day in the month of July, that the Buddha delivered his first preaching to his 5 former ascetic companions.
The basic teaching of the Buddha, which he revealed to the 5 mendicants in Sarnath, preaching the first sutta which is called Dhamma Chakra Pravartana Sutta, turning the wheel of Dharma. Buddha laid the foundation of Dharma. Buddha taught the middle path. Avoiding the extremes, coming to the middle this is what is called the Dharma. Buddha talked about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, which is nothing but that there is suffering, there is cessation, there is cause of suffering, there is cessation of suffering, and there is a path leading to the cessation of suffering.
Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami.
In the 3rd century BCE, Emperor Ashoka understood the true meaning of the Dhamma and applied it as a means of righteous governance. He played a major role in the widespread propagation of Buddhism by sending Dhamma missions within his vast kingdom and much beyond into other countries. His efforts took root, and in due course of time, the footprint of Buddhism grew many folds and even acquired the status of state religion in some countries. The Dhamma markers made by Emperor Ashoka and his rock edicts, which were strategically placed on important trade routes, proved to be a novel idea for the widespread propagation of the Dhamma. An important example in this context is the Kalsi Rock Edict site, containing all the major rock edicts from 1 to 14. The priceless Buddhist legacy left behind by Ashoka played the most important role in the rediscovery of the Indian origin of Buddhism in the 19th century. The lion capital of Sarnath was adopted as the national emblem of the Republic of India, and the Dharma Chakra with 24 spokes, which features on this capital, was adopted and placed in the center of the national flag of India. This shows India's reaffirmation of its ancient commitment to world peace and goodwill, as propagated by Ashoka in consonance with the teachings of the Buddha.
I must say that Buddha's teachings are very deeply ingrained in the psyche of India and Indians. And I think India and Indians are very proud to be associated with the Buddha and his teaching.
हम उस देश के वासी हैं जिसने दुनिया को युद्ध नहीं बुद्ध दिए हैं, शांति का संदेश दिया है.
Buddhism, for the first time in the 3rd millennia, moved into new continents like Australia, Africa, Europe, and Americas. A need was felt to facilitate interactions within the Buddhist world and to rejuvenate and revive the ancient linkages, as was the case in the ancient times when India, the birthplace of Buddhism, acted as the source and the driving force of Buddhist philosophy, art, architecture, and ideas.
Yeah.
The International Buddhist Confederation, or the IBC, became that platform where all the Buddhist traditions that had flourished in isolation in different parts of the world came together under one umbrella to strengthen interactions within themselves.
Buddhists from all over the world, belonging to all traditions, both Sangha and lay communities, gathered to form International Buddhist Confederation. Definitely it was very historic event for the whole Buddhist world. Now we have over 39 countries having more than 350 organizational members of IBC.
The IBC represents the rich unity in diversity of Buddhism and provides a platform for the global Buddhist community to share its collective wisdom and meaningfully participate in the ongoing global social and political discourse to address important issues like world peace and environmental degradation for the benefit of all sentient beings. To begin with, the Samvad Global Conclave series was started in 2015 by the IBC in collaboration with Vivekananda International Foundation and Tokyo Foundation. Graced by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, along with other esteemed political, religious and academic personalities, the conclave was conceptualized on shifting the paradigm from conflict resolution to conflict avoidance and from environmental regulation to environmental consciousness as per the principles enshrined in the teachings of the Buddha. The third day of the conclave took place at Bodh Gaya, where the Honorable Prime Minister of India also offered special prayers for global peace at the Mahabodhi Temple. The Bodh Gaya Declaration 2015 was adopted on this occasion.
I recognize how Buddhists all over the world revere Bodh Gaya as a place of pilgrimage. We in India would like to develop Bodh Gaya so that it can become the spiritual capital and civilizational bond between India and the Buddhist world. The government of India would like to provide all possible support that its Buddhist cousin nations need for the satisfaction of their spiritual needs from this holiest of holy places for them.
IBC is continuously developing a national Buddhist calendar to mark and celebrate important historical days in the life of Buddha and his prominent disciples. Such important days are being celebrated at the national level on a regular basis with full support of the Government of India. The holy body relics, Sarira Dhatu of Buddha and his precious footsteps in the Gangetic plains are the most sacred for millions of followers of the Buddha from all over the world. But they are inaccessible for a large number of people, especially for those living in far-off lands. The holy relics of the Buddha were discovered from different corners of India in the 19th and 20th centuries. They are presently kept in places like museums for safety reasons and are mostly not open for public exposition. The IBC is sensitive to this issue and has therefore initiated efforts at the highest level to bridge this gap by re-enshrinement of these most sacred relics. The Devni Mori Buddhist Center in Gujarat is an important project to re-enshrine the Devni Mori relics of the Buddha at their fine spot. The second project is the Ashtakunj Grand Relic Stoop at New Delhi to enshrine the Kapilvastu relics of the Buddha to facilitate their veneration as was the case in the past. IBC is also facilitating exposition of body relics of the Buddha in different countries by the Government of India, so that the devout who may not be able to visit the holy land of the Buddha get an opportunity of paying venerations to the holy Sarira Dhatu of the Buddha.
In those 11 days, there were people traveling for 5 days, 6 days from different corners of Mongolia to reach Ulaanbaatar to visit the relic. And we saw some bad weather conditions where there was hail storm, and there were about 14,000, 15,000 people standing quietly with their umbrellas outside the Gandhan monastery just to have a look at the relic. I think Mongolia was completely elated by the fact that the relics of the Buddha or the Buddha had arrived in that country and blessed that country.
The scientific teachings of the Buddha have shaped our understanding about mind, consciousness, and suffering for centuries and continue to do so. It's our joint responsibility to protect and preserve his footsteps, known as Buddha Charika, along with his teachings. The IBC realizes its responsibility in spearheading the campaign. Taking references from monk scholars and pilgrims like Xuanzang, who visited India in the 7th century CE, IBC realizes that there existed an elaborate pilgrimage as per the ancient traditions of Chetiya Charika, touching a large number of places in Gangetic plains where Buddha visited and delivered sermons. Therefore, the effort is to take the pilgrimage from the 8 great places to the sublime wanderings of the Buddha and focus on places, routes and rituals. To begin with, the revitalization of some historic walking pilgrimage trails like the renunciation journeys of the Bodhisattva Siddhartha and Mahaprajapati Gautami, the first journey of the Buddha from Bodh Gaya to Sarnath to teach the Dhamma, and the journey of the Buddha from Rajgir to Shravasti are being taken up. An important project for the integration of the sublime wanderings of the Buddha in the Gangetic Plains is the development of India International Center for Buddhist Culture and Heritage in the Lumbini Monastic Zone by the IBC. The foundation stone ceremony of the center was conducted by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, along with the Honorable Prime Minister of Nepal, Shri Sher Bahadur Deuba, on the auspicious occasion of Vaishakh Buddha Purnima on May 16, 2022. Working for the Dhamma and its dissemination is the collective responsibility of the entire Buddhist world. The IBC plans to raise global awareness towards this and a long-term global participation plan to make it a living heritage by utilizing the collective wisdom United Voice platform of IBC, which was jointly created by the Buddhist world for the benefit of all.
世界での仏教布教また世界中の仏教学者や仏教指導者の皆様の連携や交流を強化するためにインドの IBC が行っている膨大な取り組みを皆様が評価してくださることを願っております。それではここで拓殖大学のペマ・ギャルポ教授にご登壇いただき発表をお願いしたいと思います。ギャルポ先生、よろしくお願いいたします。
Venerable Reverends, Your Excellency, after the eloquently and accurately represented talk by His Excellency and the well-documented documentary, I don't think I have anything to say. I'm not a Buddhist scholar. I'm not a monk. I'm just a Buddhist and a layman. But I think maybe a few words, if I could add, because I'm given about 4 to 5 minutes to say something. As you could see from the documentary, that Buddhism has not been forced by invaders or conquerors. Many of the countries sought Buddhism, like King Sonsei Gampo and Trisung Jetsen of Tibet, and Shotoku Taishi, and Shomu Tenno of Japan. I'm a student of law, but when I study law, I think there's nothing more needed than the constitution drafted by those wise kings based on the philosophy and teachings of Buddha in the 7th and 8th centuries. In the first article of the 17th article of Shotoku Taishi says we have to pay respect to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Of course, in Article 1 of the Article 17-point Constitution of Shotoku Taishi also says that we have to have harmony. And it was in the second, in the second to say that we have to pay respect to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. And King Sonsei Gampo's 16 pure codes for human conduct. Again, in the first article, it says pay respect to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. In those days, we didn't have fax. We didn't have computers. It was only identical, the two articles, two constitutions, because I think it's based on the teaching of Lord Buddha. Until 1950s, Tibet never had another constitution. And I think till 1868, till the major constitution, these two articles has guided the two people. Not only the two people, from Afghanistan to south in Indonesia, Buddhism was brought and sought by the people, not enforced on them by anyone. So if there's anything that is connecting, that is the connecting belt of one Asianness, I think it is Buddhism. And especially now, after seeing the IBC's activities, as a Buddhist, I feel very confident that we could contribute more to this modern society, because at homes, among nations, there is a lot of disharmony, war, and bullying. But I think that could not be overcome by doing the same things on others. His Holiness the Dalai Lama always tells us that try to do good to others, even if you cannot do good to others, don't harm them. I think this is something that we need in this century. Lord Buddha's teaching was taken to south, west, north, east of India, and it was modified in some ways. You could see in the robes of the monks of different countries, but the essence has never been changed. The essence remains Buddhism. If the essence is changed, it's no more Buddhism. But Buddhism, in every part, though modified, to meet and to maybe make more easier for the people to understand, it has been in some ways modified. So therefore, I think even today, it is our duty to make it more viable, more vocal. And we are very happy to see that Prime Minister Modi, as he said in the document, that the place of the enlightenment of Lord Buddha, the people of government of India are also taking keen interest in playing a greater role to revive and to make Buddhism stronger and more available to all people of the world. I think I should not say anything more because my time is 4 minutes. And also I must apologize for those Japanese who may not have understood. たった一つ、仏教は決して他の国の侵略、あるいは権力によって押し付けられたものではなくて、あらゆる国において、その国から求められたものだったということ、これは非常に私はですね、仏教の画期的な一つの特質だと思います。今の社会では、ややもすれば自分の意見、自分の考えを他に押し付ける傾向があります。私は大学で法律を勉強しました。六法全書に書いていることはすべて、たった16、17条の聖徳太子、そして尊崇願望の憲法に書いたものはありません。そういう意味で、今回、このような形で、仏教の発祥地であるインドが積極的な役割を果たして、そして世界にもう一回私たちにこのありがたい教えを伝えるように努力していることに対して心から敬意をしたいと思います。時間がありませんので以上です。ありがとうございました。
ペマ・ギャラップ先生、ありがとうございました。続きまして、東京大学大学院インド哲学仏教学研究室の箕輪健良博士に、ブッダのダンマと現在の社会における関連性についてお話しいただきます。箕輪先生、ご登壇お願いいたします。
ただいまご紹介に預かりました箕輪と申します。日本語で失礼させていただきます。少しパワーポイントを作ってきましたので、それを使いながらお話をさせていただきます。次のページをお願いいたします。今日の話は、ブッダの伝えたもの、具体的にどのようなものであったか、実は私たちの体と心を見つめるところから始まったと考えています。それについて非常に興味深い記述がサティパッターナスッタの中に出てまいります。ここの冒頭の部分は仏教が目指しているものが何かというのを非常に端的に述べています。 ビクたちよ、この道は諸々の生ける者が清まり、憂いと悲しみを乗り越え、苦しみと憂いが消え、勝利を得、涅槃を目の当たりに見るための一道です。すなわちそれは思念所です。このように出てまいります。この思念所というのは、身体、そして感受、心の働き、そして誰もが起こす心の働きを見つめることであります。次をお願いいたします。実はブッダの教えの中では、このサティパッターナスッタの一番最初、サティという言葉が登場いたしますが、これが大切なものと考えられます。スッタニパータの中に8施設よりなる章というのが存在しています。この章はブッダが説いた教えを伝えている可能性が高いと言われている、一番古い部分であります。そこに出てくる表現は、常に意識していなさい、気づいていなさいというような感じです。英語で言いますと、アウェアだと思います。そうしていると、顧問分別はなくなるという言い方が出てまいります。実はこの観察方法が現在私たちの社会で心理学や脳科学の世界で注目されるようになりましたが、マインドフルネスやアウェアネスというものにつながっていきます。このマインドフルネスは気づきとかただ見ることとかというふうに訳されていますが、これを応用したものがマインドフルネスベーストストレスリダクションとかマインドフルネスベーストコグニティブテラピーという名前で現在呼ばれるようになりました。上の方は私たちが日常生活の中で感じるストレスを低減していく方法として取り上げられました。下の方は私たちがいろいろと考えてしまうちょっとうつ病的な傾向を治すものとして取り上げられたものです。このようにブッダの見つけ出した心身の観察方法が念処という言葉で呼ばれるようになっていきます。これがサティパッターナという言葉で仏典の中では表現されます。これを現代風に翻訳いたしますと、注意を振り向けて十分に把握することというふうに現在では考えられています。この内容については、初期の仏典の中のミリンダ・パンハーという資料の中では、サティとは流されないことと把握することを特徴とするというふうに出てまいります。この実践を通して見えてくる世界が無常であり、苦であり、無我であるというものです。アニッチャ、ドゥッカ、アナッタという言葉で表現されますが、ここにやがて空とかですね、あるいは不浄であるという言葉も加わってきます。いつの間にか仏典の中では、無常であり、苦であり、空であり、無我であることをが得られる。あるいはそれを目的として観察をするというような言い方が登場するようになります。ここで見られている世界がやがて大乗仏教の中に広がってきますと、縁起とか空とか無所得という言葉で表現されるようになってまいります。そして現在ではこの観察の仕方というのがいくつかの言葉で英語で呼ばれるようになってまいります。一つのものに注意を振り向け続けていきますと、私たちの心の働きそのものが全般的に静まっていきます。ここのところに焦点を当てた英語名の瞑想のですね呼び方がセンターフォーカシングメディテーションであります。一点集中タイプの瞑想とか集中瞑想などと訳されています。これはサマタという名前で呼ばれるようになっていきます。で、もう一つがビパッサナという名前で呼ばれます。このどちらもサティパッターナに基づいているのですが、やがてその具体的に実践していくうちに見えてくるあるいは得られるですね、効能から2つに分けられたと考えられます。下の方がカン・ビパッサナです。で、こちらの実践は何を実現していくかといいますと、心の自動思考を鎮めていきます。 さまざまなものを次々に、同時に、観察していく、いわゆる注意を振り向けて把握していくタイプなんですけれども、こちらの方の観察の仕方は現在英語で、オープンモニタリングメディテーションという名前で呼ばれます。ここから得られるものは何かと言いますと、一切皆空、すべてのものが、空であるというような意識とか、が出てきますが、その大事な点は何かと言いますと、私たちが常に起こしている自動思考の働きを鎮めていくところがあります。もう一つのタイプの瞑想は、同じように観察をしているのですけれども、一つ一つが、実は私たちの身体の中に捕まえられる対象としての何か、これがルーパという名前で呼ばれるんですけども、それを捕まえている心の働き、ナーマと言いますが、ルーパとナーマから私たちの見ている世界が成り立っているのだというふうに気づいていくというところに入ってきます。こちらの方は、私たちの見ている世界が私たちの心が作り出したものに過ぎないというようなところにつながってきまして、いわゆる無常であり苦である無我であるというのがしっかりと見えてくると。このような点からインサイトメディテーションという言い方で最近は呼ばれるようになっています。このようにブッダの教えというのは私たちの直面する心の悩みや苦しみを超えていくこと、これが最も大切な目的と考えられました。心身の観察から見えてくる世界は自己を中心としない価値観を養っていきます。別名、自己中心性から離れることを大切にするというふうに申したりします。そしてもう一つ大切な考え方がシム良心です。自、非、帰、者という言葉で、訳されますけれども、マイトリー、カルナー、それから、ミジター、それからベッカというですね、言葉で、出てまいります。他者に対していかにあるべきかという理想が語られている、私たちの心情の中で大切なものとして登場してまいります。争いを好まない、というのはまさに、この世界から出てくるものでありまして、日常の戒めには不殺生が一番最初に、登場いたします。仏教が起こした戦争はですね、実は皆無に近いと思われるんですけども、最近は東南アジア、同期と言います東南アジア最大の問題、ロヒンギャの問題のところで、ちょっと過激な仏教徒の方が登場してきているようですけれども、基本的に、仏教が原因となって起こした、争いはないと言っていいのではないかと思います。次に仏教との国際的な、連携とその役割について、ですけれども、実は現在世界には3つの仏教があると言っていいと思います。一つは東南アジアを中心に展開するテーラバータの仏教。もう一つは東アジアを中心に展開するマハヤーナの仏教。そしてもう一つはチベットからインドの北部、そしてネパールやブータン等に活躍しておりますバジュラヤーナの仏教です。この3つの仏教者の協力というのができると良いのではないかと考えています。それぞれの伝統の中にも様々な分派が存在し、同じ伝統の中でも他の伝統に対する態度が異なっています。例えばタイのテーラバーダの中では、タマサット派とかマハーニカイ派というのが有名ですけれども、タマサット派は意外に他の伝統に対して厳しい姿勢を示しますが、マハーニカイ派の方は意外に温和な態度を持っています。大乗仏教の国々の中でも、他の伝統に温和なところとそうでないと。特に日本の場合には、各種のそれぞれがですね、独自性を主張して、あまり他の伝統に対して寛容ではないような傾向があります。金剛上の仏教の場合には、厳密二教というですね、新たな立場から他の伝統に対してもそれをかなり温和な態度で迎えているように思います。さて、現在の世界の人口を見てみますと、世界の人口は今約80億人と言われます。この中でキリスト教徒が22億、仏教徒が約5億、 イスラム教徒は約16億人というふうに言われています。仏教徒の数は現在今一番少ないと言っていいと思います。しかし、仏教徒が、仏教が伝えてきましたものを伝えている仏教徒の方たちが連携してその持っている私たちの信心の観察の方法や死後良心の重要性を伝えるというのは大事なことではないかと思っています。そのようなことが実現できれば、で大事なものはですね、共存のためにまずは対話から入っていくべきなんだと思うんですけども、その最初に存在すべきものは、自己中心性からの脱却が必要ではないかと思います。仏教との連携というのはおそらく必要不可欠ではないかと思います。現在までにもすでに二国間のものは数多くありますが、多国間の連携というのはあまり多いとは言えないような気がします。仏教の3つの伝統を超えた連携みたいなものは、実は国連が主導するものがすでに存在していました。国連の決議によりまして、今年第18回目なんですけれども、米作セレブレーションというものが行われました。現在、これは今回ですね、6月の最初にタイの、バンコクとアユタヤを会場にしてですね、開催されました。新しい連携を考えていく必要があるんだと思うんですけれども、今の米作セレブレーションはちょっとセレブレーション的になりすぎまして、お祭りで、それはそれでいいんですけれども、もう少し中に踏み込んだものが必要ではないかと。出家者の方たちは様々な意味で高度な専門職者ではないかと思っております。その人たちがケーススタディを入れながら、研究者や仏教実践者の方が参加し、お祭りを含めても良いと思いますので、国際会議を継続的に開催することができれば、大変に価値のあるものになるのではないかと思っています。そのためには周到な準備が多分必要であろうと考えています。ケーススタディの重要性というのは、現在起きている問題をきちんと見つけること、そしてそれがなぜそのようになっているのかという本質を追求すること、そしてそこから自己解決を目指していくこと。この3つの具体的な例を、3つの仏教伝統者の方たちが集まったところで、それぞれ披露していくという中から、見つけられてくるものがあるのだと思います。仏教者の連携がしっかりとした形で取れれば、それは今一番大きな問題になっています、平和に対して大きな一歩になるのではないかと考えています。簡単ではありますが、私の話を終わらせていただきます。ありがとうございます。
箕輪先生、ありがとうございました。それで続きまして、インド人仏教写真家のベノイ・ペヘル氏が制作した短編ドキュメンタリー、ブッダの足跡と慈悲の道。失礼いたしました。大変失礼いたしました。プログラムちょっと変更いたします。この後ですね、大使が公務でちょっと抜けなければなりませんので、このタイミングで皆様と一緒にですね、集合写真を撮らせていただきたく思います。皆様ですね、壇上にお上がりいただけますでしょうか。Because the ambassador has an offshore engagement, we'd like to change the program to take the group photo of the other participants. So please get up on the stage, and there's no need to take off your shoes. その履物はそのままで結構ですので、ご登壇いただきですね、皆様で集合写真を撮らせていただきたいと思います。If you have issue in taking off your shoes, you don't have to take them off. Please proceed to the stage for the group photo. どうぞ皆様、ステージ上にお上がりいただきまして、皆さんで記念撮影を行いますので、靴はそのままお履きいただいたままで結構ですので、ステージ上にお上がりください。 ステージ上ですね、ちょっと場所が限られておりますので、ステージに上がりきれない場合はですね、ステージの前のスペースにお並びいただければと思います。皆様ありがとうございました。続きまして、インド人仏教写真家のベノイ・ベハル氏制作の短編ドキュメンタリー、ブッダの足跡と慈悲の道を上映いたします。どうぞご覧ください。
It was the beginning of the first millennium BC. In the Indian subcontinent, great philosophic ideas which were to last forever were being crystallized. The material world which we see around us was considered Maya or Mithya, an illusion. The high purpose of life was to rise above these limitations, to lift the veils of illusion and to see beyond, thereby to break the spell of the transitory world or samsara. In this age, numerous thinkers gave up the attractions of the material world to search for the truth. They left behind their material possessions and their emotional bonds with their families. They sought to be free of the endless pursuit of desires in the material world. The greatest renunciator of the period was Gautama Siddhartha, known as the fourth or the seventh Buddha or enlightened one. Millions of his followers continue till today as one of the greatest religions of the world, Buddhism.
Gautama Siddhartha was one of humanity's wisest teachers. He was born in 563 BC, the son of Suddhodana, the ruler of the Shakya clan. Suddhodana ruled from the town of Kapilavastu, in the present-day state of Uttar Pradesh in India. The site of Kapilavastu has been excavated near the villages of Pravaha and Ganveria. Before Gautama was born, it is believed that his mother, Queen Maya, had a dream. In her sleep, she saw a white elephant entering her womb. Asita, the court astrologer, was told about the dream. He said, "Queen Maya, you will have a son. He will be destined for greatness in whichever path he chooses, whether as a great king or as a renunciator and savior of mankind." Thus, the arrival of a great being was heralded. Just before she was to give birth, Queen Maya set out for her father's town, Devadaha. On the way, she halted in a grove at Lumbini, which is in present-day Nepal. Here, as she reached up to take support of a branch of a sal tree, a son was born from under her raised arm. When he was born, the child took 7 steps towards the north and said, "I am one who will tread the path taken by others before me." Ashoka, the great Indian emperor of the 3rd century BC, erected a pillar at Lumbini to commemorate this sacred site. After his birth, Queen Maya bathed in a pond, and Gautama is said to have been given an abhisheka, or ritual shower, by mythical creatures. Gautama led a princely life and was kept away from all the pains and miseries of the world. His parents were afraid of the possibility that he may renounce the world to become an ascetic. However, Gautama had an innate thoughtful nature and an inclination towards meditation. At the age of 29, his life took a different turn. On separate occasions, while he was driven outside the palace by his charioteer, he saw 4 sights which set him thinking. He saw a very old and feeble man, an extremely sick man, and a dead man being taken for cremation. As he was sheltered from the realities of life, these sights stunned him. He realized that all pleasure was transitory. On a 4th occasion, he saw an ascetic whose face was serene. Gautama decided to renounce the fleeting pleasures of the world. In the stillness of the night, Gautama bade a silent farewell to his sleeping wife and son. He left the palace quietly on his horse Kantaka, accompanied by his charioteer Chandaka. It is said that celestial beings cushioned his horse's hooves as he rode, so that the sound would not awaken the sleeping palace. Having gone some distance, Gautama cut off his beautiful long hair and took off his ornaments and royal attire. These and his horse Kantaka he sent back with Chandaka. It is said that his horse Kantaka, who loved him very much, turned around for one last look at Gautama. In that moment, Kantaka's heart broke, and he died. For 6 years, Gautama wandered all over Bihar in his quest for true knowledge. He looked for teachers who may be able to show him the path of release from samsara, the endless cycle of life and death in the illusory world. None were able to satisfy him. He subjected himself to the severest austerities in the belief that this would elevate the mind. He denied himself food and water till he was reduced to a skeleton. However, the truth remained beyond his grasp. Seeing the futility of self-mortification, Gautama decided to take nourishment again. This would sustain his body and give him the clarity of mind he desired. He accepted a bowl of sweet rice milk offered to him by a village girl, Sujata. A grass cutter offered him a bundle of soft grass on which to sit. Next to the Niranjana river at the village of Uruvela, Gautama sat down to meditate under a peepal tree. For days he sat in meditation, determined to seek the truth. Mara and his armies, the personifications of our doubts, confusions, and temptations, assailed him from time to time. However, he was unshaken in his meditation and his will to escape the desires and pains of the material world. It was a full moon night. Gautama sat under the tree and continued his quest. Finally, his mind dispelled all the darkness of confusion. He fully realized the truth of the cause of suffering and the path to happiness. After 6 years of struggle, Gautama attained his goal. He had become a Buddha, one who has gained bodhi, the knowledge of the truth.
One man's glorious journey in search of enlightenment was successfully completed. In this, there was the beginning of a great journey for mankind. Gautama Buddha had resolved to preach what he had realized.
Thereafter, the site of the Buddha's enlightenment became one of the most sacred spots. It is today known as Bodh Gaya. A rock edict records Emperor Ashok's visit to Bodh Gaya in the 3rd century BC. Here, he erected a shrine to commemorate the sacred spot. At Sarnath, near Varanasi, the Buddha delivered his first sermon to his 5 former companions. This event is known as the Dhamma Chakra Pravartana, or the setting into motion of the wheel of law. The Buddha spoke of 4 noble truths. He said, there is dukkha, or suffering. There is samudaya, the cause of suffering. There is nirodha, or the removal of the cause of suffering. And there is marg, or the path leading to the removal of the cause of suffering. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth of sorrow. From birth it begins. Old age causes sorrow. Sickness causes sorrow. Death causes sorrow. Contact with unpleasant things causes sorrow. Separation from pleasant things causes sorrow. And not getting what one wishes for also causes sorrow. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth about the origin of sorrow. Sorrow arises from craving, which leads to rebirth and a thirst for sensual delights. Desire leads to the seeking of satisfaction, now here, now there. That is to say, the craving for gratification of passions, or the craving for life, or the craving for success. This is the cause of sorrow. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth about the removal of sorrow. Sorrow shall be gone when desire ceases, and no passion remains. Now this, O monks, is the noble truth about the way which leads to the removal of sorrow. It is the noble eightfold path. This is the path of moderation. It keeps clear of the two extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. This path is the noble eightfold path of the right views, the right thoughts, the right speech, the right action, the right means of livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right contemplation. Hearing Buddha's enlightened words, the 5 ascetics were at once converted and formed the nucleus of the Buddhist Sangha, or order. The Dhammaik stupa is said to stand at the exact place where the Buddha preached to the 5 ascetics in the deer park. Emperor Ashoka built many great stupas to honor the Buddha. Each of these was called a Dharmarajika stupa, and these contain the holy relics of the Buddha. One of these is at Sarnath. Ashoka also erected many impressive pillars to commemorate events of the Buddha's life. The Ashoka pillar at Sarnath, with its famous capital of 4 lions, was erected at the place where the Buddha established his first Sangha, the Buddhist congregation. The lion capital of this pillar is the national emblem of the Republic of India. The Buddha wandered ceaselessly from place to place in present-day Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. He taught Dharma to all without any distinctions. He and his disciples lived on what they received as alms. This wandering life ceased only in the monsoons, when the rain came down hard. The Buddha frequently visited Rajgir, the capital of the kingdom of Magadha. He spent many monsoons preaching here. After he passed away, the first Buddhist council was convened at this site. Modern-day Rajgir preserves the remains of this ancient past. In these, historians have tried to identify places associated with the events of the Buddhist history. The Buddha preached in the easily understood local dialect of the people. He spoke of universal equality, charity, and logical reasoning. Large numbers flocked to his sermons and became followers.
At the age of 80, Gautama Buddha headed towards Kushinagara in present-day Uttar Pradesh. There he told his close disciple Ananda that his end was near. Ananda was miserable and he cried bitterly. The Buddha told him not to grieve the loss of his master's transitory self. He said, "Dharma is your refuge."
The Buddha addressed the Sangha one final time and said at the end, "All that comes to existence must fade away. Let your striving alone never come to an end." The year was 483 BC, and these were the Buddha's last words. Following the Buddha's Mahaparinirvana, his relics were distributed among 7 groups of his followers, who enshrined them in stupas. The Pali chronicles tell that Ashoka opened these original stupas and redistributed the relics in other stupas across his lands. Archaeological excavations have shown that the core of the stupas at Sanchi and Amravati date back to Ashoka's period. However, building activity continued at these sites. What is visible today does not belong to the Mauryan period. Since earliest historic times, the kings and the people of this land presented a unique and fascinating culture. There were no portraits of rulers made in ancient India. Emperor Ashoka does not even mention his own name in most of his edicts. He is just referred to as Deva Nampiya Piyadasi, beloved of the divine, and one whose vision is filled with adoration. Besides his visits to many Buddhist pilgrimage sites, he also excavated great caves out of the hills at Barabar in Bihar. These were made for the ascetic sect of the Ajivikas.
在日インド大使館ビーカナンダ文化センター所長のカニタ・アガルワルより閉会の辞を申し上げます。
His Excellency Shri Shibi George, Ambassador of India to Japan, Honorable Head and representatives of the Buddhist Organizations of Japan and the Buddhist Sangha leaders, distinguished speakers and academicians, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm namaskaram to all of you. On behalf of the Embassy of India, Tokyo, I express our heartiest gratitude to each one of you for your graceful presence. Your presence in the event is a testimony to the eternal relevance of Lord Buddha's teaching and the fact that each one of us has imbibed those teachings in our lives in some way or the other. I also thank the various Buddhist organizations in Japan for their generous support for the event. I wish to place on record our appreciation and gratitude for the distinguished speakers who enlightened us with the Buddha Dharma and its relevance in the contemporary time. I once again thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us make this event a grand success. Thank you one and all. I now request all of you to kindly pay floral tribute to Lord Buddha and then join us in the foyer for a book exhibition and refreshment. Thank you once again.
最後になりましたが、ご来場の皆様の中で、ブッダにですね、お花をお供えになりたい方は、どうぞご自由にストージにお上がりいただい、献花されてください。これをもって本日のイベントは終了となりますが、在日インド大使館を代表しお運びくださいました皆様に感謝申し上げます。会場の外では仏教関連図書の展示会を行っております。また、軽食もご用意しておりますので、どうぞご歓談をお楽しみください。本日は誠にありがとうございました。